This is CBC Vancouver News.
It's a highly technical climb that's going to require ropes, crampons, harnesses.
Search crews near Squamish are at the mercy of the weather, with still no sign of 3 experienced climbers missing since Friday. Plus,
this only affects people with variable rate mortgages and lines of credit.
a long-awaited interest rate cut. What difference will it make for mortgage holders and new buyers trying to get into the market? Also,
I'm sad. We were really looking forward to it opening up.
It has to be safe, so whatever.
It's part of the heritage of Kitsilano.
after several delays due to repairs, turns out Kit's Pool won't reopen at all this summer. Hello, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. We begin near Squamish, where the fate of 3 experienced climbers remains a question mark. The group went missing in the Mount Garibaldi area 5 days ago. Today, conditions cleared enough to send up helicopters for aerial surveillance, but as of dusk tonight, there were no updates, and crews are expected to resume the search at dawn tomorrow. The CBC's Georgie Smythe is there with more on a rescue mission that's at the mercy of the weather.
An active search for 3 mountaineers gained fresh momentum, with clearer weather allowing for crews to gear up and conduct aerial surveys south of Whistler and BC's Coast Mountains. The missing climbers were supposed to return here to their car on Friday. They haven't been heard from since earlier that day. Police did not confirm their identities other than to say they're experienced in the mountains. The trio were climbing Atwell Peak, a remote mountain in Garibaldi Park near Squamish.
This is not a casual day hike by any stretch.
Search and rescue, along with RCMP, plan to eventually search the area on foot, but the mountains here are still snow-capped and the danger of heavy snowfall and avalanches is front of mind.
We weren't able to get high enough to clear the avalanche risk to send in ground personnel. So we're basically still standing by, still waiting for the weather to cooperate.
It's a nervous wait for family and friends anxious for an update. Rescuers have not had any communication with the trio and don't know which part of the mountain to search.
This is an extremely technical mountaineering adventure that these people set out on. It's a highly technical climb that's going to require ropes, crampons, harnesses, extreme experience and extreme training in order to get into this area.
This rescue mission will be very much determined by the weather, visibility in the air and on the ground, making all the difference to how crews can access this remote terrain. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Squamish.
Well, big news from the Bank of Canada today. It's lowered the key interest rate to 4.75%. It's the central bank's first rate cut in more than 4 years. Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem says high interest rates have been doing their job.
Restrictive monetary policy is working to relieve price pressures. And with further and more sustained evidence underlying inflation is easing, monetary policy no longer needs to be as restrictive. In other words, it's appropriate to lower our policy interest rate.
He points out both headline inflation and core inflation are now within the bank's target range between 1% and 3%. Other economic factors such as growth and job vacancies indicate that inflation should continue to decline. And if that trend holds, further rate cuts can be expected. Well, this all comes as welcome news to variable rate mortgage holders who've been weathering hike after hike, year after year. And as Michelle Gassou reports, there's hope the long-awaited cut today could help some new buyers get into the housing market.
As the Bank of Canada cuts its key interest rate, a sigh of relief for those trying to keep their head above choppy financial waters.
Even a couple $100s would be a huge benefit. Between that and like car payments and insurance payments, it takes quite a toll on your kind of monthly expenditure.
Canadian mortgage holders have been hit with spike after spike since March 2020, moves designed to cause pain to consumers and combat inflation. But this long-awaited cut comes too late for some.
We just renewed our mortgage.
Okay, so to see that come down, what do you think?
We were waiting until last minute, really, to get our mortgage done, mortgage renewal done, and then we see this morning. One more week. We could have waited one more week. So, yeah, our mortgage went up pretty much double percentage.
The rate has been slashed from 5%, the highest in 23 years, to 4.75%. Every 25 base point decrease translates to roughly $15 less per month for every $100,000 of mortgage. This mortgage consultant says the cut will allow more Canadians to qualify and is an indicator of things to come.
If people are taking a look at doing a new mortgage now, they may be considering a variable rate because we do figure that rates are going to come down. But that's going to be a personal decision for them depending on what their risk tolerance level is.
Would-be buyers waiting on the sidelines could see this as their sign to get into the market, boosting sales as more cuts could be coming.
This is a sign that the Bank of Canada is open to rate cuts. And we have in our forecast the bulk of rate cuts in the forecast horizon will be taking place next year in 2025.
Welcome savings after years of ever-rising costs. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
A man has been killed in a stabbing in Vancouver's Chinatown early this morning. Officers found the 32-year-old man alive on Union Street just east of Main before 3:30 a.m., but he died before he could be taken to the hospital. Investigators are now collecting evidence and trying to find eyewitnesses. At this point, no one has been arrested. More than 2,500 people were killed by toxic drugs in BC alone last year, and a disproportionate number of them, about 20%, worked in the trades. Well, now an advocacy group for construction workers wants nasal naloxone kits available at all construction sites province-wide.
People get injured, they go to their doctor, they get prescribed opioids. They take those opioids so that they can maintain and continue to provide for their families and contribute to our economy. That can become a substance dependency so that they can keep going, because the injury only gets worse as you continue to, perform your job. And that substance dependency can quickly become substance abuse.
He says nasal kits would be easier to use for workers who wear heavy gear because precious time is wasted if they have to remove that gear to use the standard needle kits. Two Metro Vancouver municipalities that share a name continue to fight over their shared RCMP detachment and its costs. The much bigger township of Langley wants a clean split in policing from the city of Langley, which would force the city to build a separate RCMP headquarters. But as Chad Pawson explains, Langley City wants to continue sharing.
For decades, the two Langleys have shared one RCMP detachment, splitting the costs based on population. But last spring, the township of Langley announced plans for a change, that each municipality should have its own RCMP detachment.
The Township of Langley has been subsidizing the City of Langley for many, many years, and the City of Langley has historically not expanded our CMP resources while we have. And so I think it's gotten a long time to get to this point, but it's appropriate for us to head separate directions.
The City of Langley sits nestled inside the much larger Township of Langley. It has a population of around 29,000 people, nearly 4 times fewer than the township. So that means a smaller tax base and a tougher challenge to pay for policing. The city's mayor does not want to deintegrate.
Quite frankly, I just think it's a waste of time and energy and taxpayer resources. And if we want to make our community safer, we should do it within the agreement. We can do it quicker and more cost effective.
This week, the spat went public, with the Township of Langley complaining over the city dragging its heels to pay its latest policing bill, some $3 million.
They were telling us that they would not pay unless we agreed to continue the agreement under the old terms, which is clearly bad faith negotiation.
It's really unheard of to be paying millions of dollars without a contract or reason why we're paying it.
In the end, the city did pay up, but wants policing to continue as is in the two Langleys. The township, however, is committed to a split. Now, that would require approval from the federal and provincial government. Transitions also can take years. The one going on in Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows is stretching along. Surrey has also had its own problems. So for now, policing will continue to be shared in Langley, and the two mayors will have to work together to ensure safety in those two cities. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, bad news for those of you hoping to swim at the Kits Beach pool this summer. It's now closed indefinitely. The seasonal opening of the pool has faced a series of delays over the course of this spring. Ultimately, the city of Vancouver says even after repairs made during the off-season, the pool is still losing a lot of water, and that's made it impossible to balance the chemicals.
I'm sad. We were really looking forward to it opening up. We've been waiting for a while for this, and we're just recently retired, so we were going to kind of enjoy it over the summer.
It has to be safe, so whatever. As long as they still keep the showboat going, that's okay.
And it was always an amazing place to come and play. So for the kids to not have that, I think it's too bad. Because it's part of the heritage of Kitsilano.
We just live a couple of blocks up here, and we see a steady stream of people coming down the street early in the morning, going to the pool, and I'm sure those people are going to be very disappointed.
Vancouver Coastal Health also says the pool can't safely operate as is, but the city says it will extend hours as second beach pool throughout the summer. Affordability is far and above the most widespread struggle the elderly are facing in this province. That's according to BC's new seniors advocate.
Many low-income seniors are having trouble paying rent, buying groceries, covering mobility aids, and other costs that aren't paid for through our publicly insured healthcare system.
His report recommends the province take immediate actions, including increasing rent subsidies and supplemental payments, as well as eliminating the daily rate charge for home support and providing free shingles vaccines. You may be able to get a lower rate on your electricity depending on when you use it. BC Hydro has launched its time of day rate. That means customers will see a 5-cent discount for each kilowatt hour of electricity used overnight. But you'll also see then a 5-cent surcharge during the peak period. That's from 4 to 9 p.m. Prices will stay the same the rest of the day. This is all a voluntary rate that customers can opt into. A Coquitlam man is walking 80 kilometers in 20 hours to honor Canadian soldiers that he's met over the years. 59-year-old Guy Black will be lighting tribute candles and laying poppy wreaths at cenotaphs and military armories across Metro Vancouver before ending his walk at the D-Day ceremony in Vancouver tomorrow morning. We caught up with him earlier today.
Elizabeth McHardy in Maple Ridge, that's her brother. He died, I think it was December 1944. So what I've decided to do is I've known quite a few war veterans, and unfortunately they've all passed away. And I've known many that actually fought in the D-Day battle, Normandy campaign to liberate France. So I'm going to walk for them. It means a lot because this really became a personal thing, commemoration. From me to people that I knew, the veterans who have passed away, there's no fanfare, there's no send-off ceremony, no welcome when I finish downtown, but I'm doing it with my son. So I don't think I could do it any better than that. And it really is a solemn walk, and I'll be thinking about these guys when I'm walking.
I'm the support driver for the event, so I've got all of his stuff in there, water, food, and whatever he would need. And then I've also got everything we need for the ceremonies that we're doing at multiple different locations along the walk.
So she's meeting us in Maple Ridge with her son, and it will be a 4-person commemoration ceremony. Well, I think everything that I've done is something that other people can do as well, because I don't represent an organization, I don't work for the government. I'm a regular person, and I was able to do these things, which I think are small things, but hopefully everything will add up to be a really great commemoration for remembrance.
Still ahead, there's nothing like having a lush green lawn, but is it environmentally responsible? After the break, we look at how to enjoy your green spaces while saving water and native species at the same time. Stay with us. Welcome back. With summer weather on the horizon, many British Columbians are starting to think about water conservation. Restrictions are already in place. One of the best ways to save water is to limit lawn watering. And some are taking that even a step further by naturalizing their lawns or allowing native plants and wildflowers to flourish. Our Darius Madavi went to UBC's Botanical Gardens to learn more about that.
If you have a yard, odds are most of it looks like this, just turf grass. Unfortunately, the widespread use of turf grass is one of the biggest ecological disasters of our time. Unable to support local pollinators or biodiversity or prevent drought or flooding, turf grass is not really good for much, aside from recreation. So, what can we do about it?
What we've got here is a lawn that we haven't just forgotten about. We actually have a lot of intent in this lawn. We've got some of our bulbs that are finishing. We've got our nice mow strip so people know that it's intentional. And we've allowed this lawn to be more than one thing. This is actually habitat.
Naturalized areas aren't just for wildlife. They're great for humans, too. A sustainable landscape will sequester carbon, manage the watershed, support native pollinators, and the plants that make up the base of the food web, and do it all for free. Unfortunately, turf grass lawns don't provide any of those services, and that means humans, and often taxpayers, need to foot the bill instead.
And so the longer the grass blades here, the more water you're going to have stored in the plant, and which means less inputs needed, less watering needed.
More drought resistant then?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're standing on a lawn that's not just lawn grass.
No, we have our intentional plantings that we've added. We've got some of our clover in here. Trying to look, we've got some English daisy. We've got some little violas. We look across here. It's a sea of green. Oh, and here's some white clover here. So that's very drought tolerant. One thing about clover, it does have some high recuperative abilities. So not only does it feed nitrogen into the soil, it's nitrogen fixing, what it also does is it's very recuperative, that when you do beat it up, it grows back well. When we start looking at some of the problems when you have a monoculture of just one cultivated type of grass or a couple predominant types of grass, you end up seeing some of the pests come in.
Calling lawns one of the greatest ecological disasters of our time may sound like an overstatement, but in North America, we devote more land to growing turf grass than we do to any other cultivated crop. Here, more water and fertilizer is used on turf grass than corn and wheat combined. In fact, nearly 1/3 of all clean, drinkable water used residentially in the U.S. goes to lawns. On top of that, they're bad for the climate. Annual emissions from lawnmowers in North America far exceed the emissions released by all new cars sold in Canada in 2023. All of that adds up to billions of dollars each year that Canadians are spending to maintain their lawns.
If you have a lawn that gets a lot of use, then for sure have a lawn. But does it need to be as big as it is? Can you reduce the size of the lawn? A lot of people are forced to rethink whether they need a lawn or not when they start spending so much money trying to keep their lawn nice when the lawn just really doesn't want to be there. But the trouble is that everybody wants to keep them green all year round. So if you let your lawn go brown, there's nothing wrong with it. It will come back. It goes dormant in the summer. It doesn't die in the summer.
Research has shown that converting as little as 10% of residential lawns and public green space to native habitat-supporting plants could significantly aid insect conservation, something that is desperately needed at a time when nearly 1/4 of native bee species in North America are vulnerable to extinction. Naturalizing your own lawn might seem daunting, so I asked experts how someone like me could get started. They said to visit local native plant garden centers and to know the spot you want to naturalize and to try overseeding with native species first. You can also save and swap seeds because community seed swaps increase biodiversity for everyone. And most of all, they said don't use pesticides.
You have to have a plan. You have to understand what species you want to have in your lawn. If you've got invasive ones, you need to weed those out right away. It's not about just throwing down some wild flower seeds and expecting them to grow. It's more about having purposeful plants in your garden. It's always right plant, right place, and creating ecology.
So not all grasses are created equal, but some of them are much better suited to your yard than others. Darius Madavi, CBC News, Vancouver.
You're looking at a live shot of White Rock and the pier. Well, the sun has returned and it is here to stay. Your 5-day forecast is on the way next.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
And it's time for a look at the forecast. Let's bring in our Darius Madavi. And Darius, first, I understand we just got in some new data regarding climate records. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so earlier today we heard from the UN Secretary General that we just saw May 2024 as the 12th month in a row that broke the climate record, the temperature record for that corresponding month. And now, just an hour ago, we got new data in from Copernicus, the European Union's climate change service, showing what their models say has happened over the past year. And as you can see, it is stark. So what we're looking at here, this line, this graph, is showing you the difference between the records set in 2023 to 2024, June to May, and the comparison to previous years. So this bar being so large is what's really concerning here. We've seen runs of months that broke all previous temperature records for that month before, But this time, it's just the magnitude, how much we've broken it by, that's especially concerning. And if we take a look here across the board, you can see just how much warmer we've seen conditions across the past year. And there's a lot of areas that are very red and very few areas that are blue, you'll notice. And also, we heard from Copernicus that northern Canada in particular was the area that has warmed the most, 3 degrees Celsius. So even though we're looking at 1.5 degrees Celsius across the board, 3 degrees Celsius here in Canada, in northern Canada. So very concerning stuff. And so as we continue to see temperatures rise here in BC over the next few days, it's going to feel very nice, but sort of does cast a bit of a grim pall over the whole thing, doesn't it? With that being said, though, things are going to clear up. We are going to get sunnier. We are going to get warmer. That cloud is leaving. That rain that we've seen a lot of lately is leaving pretty much across BC. Maybe some rain coming late this weekend, but I wouldn't count on it just yet. It is trending dry. In terms of temperatures, across the board, those are going to rise over the next few days, easily hitting 30 in the Okanagan and the southern interior over the next few days. So be prepared for a warm one for sure, much warmer than we've seen. A few lingering thunderstorms tomorrow in a few places, but mostly that instability is gone, and we're going to see warm conditions and sunny conditions across the board, and that is what we see in our forecast for Metro Vancouver. So
we'll make sure we have those sunglasses out. Yeah, no doubt. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
And that is your late news for this Wednesday, June 5th. For news anytime, anywhere, download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online at cbc.ca/BC. Thanks for being with us. Good night.